your interpretation for what is going on in Syria seems to be very different from what we read in Western media. What is your take on this? What do you think is going on?
I think there is a fundamental confusion which took place 2 years ago in 2011 about the nature of the uprising in Syria, or the protests in Syria, in fact. They were protests to start with. Western media thought it was part of the continuation of the Arab Spring, Tahrir Square, Tunisia, where a large, educated middle-class population wanted democracy and wanted authoritarianism to end. In Syria, there was such a movement, had been there for a long time, but what actually happened in Syria was slightly different. While this democracy movement was still trying to organize itself, sending out calls on the newly liberalized internet to meet in front of the parliament and so on, which took place in February and early March, in Daraa, on the edge of Syria-Jordan border, and based in a mosque which is famed for its extreme Islamist view, the Al-Omari Mosque. It's famed all over Syria and Jordan. They know what it is. Around that mosque and in Daraa, a series of protests developed and they became violent. And the Western media thought that this was part of the Arab Spring. But in fact, it was something quite different. This was an attempt not to get rid of a dictator to bring about democracy, but to get rid of a secular dictator in whose regime and his father's regime, minorities had completely equal place, if not privileged place, and total equality, and which ran on strictly secular lines, with a theocratic government based upon the tenets of Islam. And if you know the tenets, you know that a theocratic Islamic state has no place for democracy.